Let's freaking go, man. Let's freaking go. The New York Jets have just hired Frank Reich to become their team's next offensive coordinator. Man, this was my number one option out of the 5 that the New York Jets released, right? Their 5 OC interviews. Why? Because at this stage of the offseason, Frank Reich checks the most boxes. All reports and indications were pointing to Aaron Glenn wanting a quote-unquote head coach of the offense, right? Especially with how poorly the defense performed. Aaron Glenn being a defensive-minded head coach, him going out and hiring Brian Duker as defensive coordinator. Again, it seems like he wants to be more hands-on with the defense, and he's going to start throwing haymakers at the NFL. Like, I'm turning this thing around. Like, if I'm going down with my defense. However, that leaves this massive freaking vacancy on the offensive side of the football. So, from that standpoint, we need someone who's not going to be overwhelmed. We need someone who's going to provide structure, stability, play calling, and ideally, a lot of experience. Frank Reich easily checks all those boxes, okay? Easily. Head coaching experience, offensive coordinator experience, play calling experience, Super Bowl champion, former player / former quarterback here. Out of the realistic options for the New York Jets, who comes in and checks those boxes? Who comes in and gives you that much experience? Throw on top of it, he's played for the Jets. Throw on top of it, he knows Aaron Glenn. This Jets offense needs to be turned around. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If it's not, everyone will be fired. The Jets offense struggled to complete a pass last year. Think about that. They struggled to complete passes. Frank Reich, in my opinion, is the best overall candidate at this point in time to come in and flip the script of the offense. People want to say, oh, Jets fans, just don't get your hopes up, right? He was just the offensive coordinator for the Super Bowl winning Eagles. He didn't call plays. Can't be that good, right? Well, how about when he did call plays? In 2018, as head coach of the Indianapolis Colts with Andrew Luck in his first season, he was top 5 in points per game. The following year, when Andrew Luck suddenly retires in preseason out of nowhere, right? Nobody saw this coming, and they have to quickly pivot to Jacoby Brissett to be their starter for an entire season. Where did they finish? 16th in the NFL in points per game. You're thinking catastrophic drop-off, right? Imagine Josh Allen gets hurt before the start of the season. They have to roll out Mitch Trubisky for an entire year. Where does that Buffalo Bills offense finish in points per game? Patrick Mahomes, same thing. Like, you're thinking massive drop for going from a top 5 offense, franchise, elite quarterback to now we're quickly scrambling and pivoting, going to our backup in preseason. That changes the entire direction of the season. Frank Reich and Jacoby Brissett, potentially a future Jet at this point, finished 16th. What happened the year after that when they made another quarterback change to Phillip Rivers? Well, they were top 10 once again in points per game, sitting there at 9th. Then the year after that, after Phillip Rivers announced his retirement, they quickly pivot and they go after Carson Wentz, and they finished top 10 again in points per game, sitting there at 9th. The following season, he ends up giving up play calling to Marcus Brady and is ultimately let go. That kind of felt like the downfall at that point in time, right? You had the Marcus Brady drama and whatnot. They started, 3-5-1 with Matt Ryan, and that was the end of it. So look, I don't want to look at Frank Reich and say, you didn't call plays in the Super Bowl championship run, therefore you can't do it. No, that's simply not the case. Now, when I think about the Frank Reich offense here with this Jets team, I'm thinking about like a spread out West Coast system, right? Where you get just a lot of West Coast tendencies, a lot of West Coast, passing concepts and whatnot, stuff that it might not be the most cutting edge, but it's time tested and it works. Look, is Frank Reich, I don't want to make it, although I'm pumped up about this hire, I don't want to make it sound like the Jets just brought in, again, a Bill Walsh or Sean McVay or somebody like that. But we added stability, we added experience, we added someone that has been there and done that before, someone who's not going to be overwhelmed, and also something to make a note of, something that's very, very important when it comes specifically to this team, which is the quarterback position. If we look at what the New York Jets are known for at the quarterback position, it is rushing young guys with high upsides out there too early to go save everybody's jobs. right? Maybe they're not ready to play. Maybe they don't have enough weapons. Maybe they don't have a good enough offensive line. Maybe they're in a coaching change flux, right? Where they're having to learn a different system from a year-to-year basis. I think Frank Reich, the former quarterback here, scratch that, the former backup quarterback here, understands the importance of not rushing someone out early. So in the event that we draft a Ty Simpson, a Garrett Nussmeier, take your pick. I don't know really what's going on with Trinidad Chambliss up to this point, and it's looking like we're going to be missing out on Fernando Mendoza. In the event that we draft one of these younger players, I feel a lot better with Frank Reich running the show and making sure, hey, this young quarterback could be the way out. He could be the path moving forward for this Jets team, because if you nail this position, you all of a sudden turn the optics completely around with an organization, right? If you can find that quarterback, in other words, don't ruin him. Please don't ruin him. Now, of course, the quarterback actually has to be capable of becoming a franchise quarterback. It's not all on the team every single time. In some cases, the quarterback prospects simply failed as well. But all you can do as a coaching staff is try to maximize what you have. And again, if Ty Simpson, if Nussmeier's the pick here for the Jets at wherever they want in the top 45, having a former head coach, a former offensive coordinator, a former Super Bowl champion, a former player / quarterback / backup quarterback to develop him makes sense. It makes sense. I don't feel like Reich is going to rush someone out there if they're not ready. That's just my guess. Also, we have to take a look at the archetype of quarterback that Frank Reich has worked with before, really throughout the bulk of his career, right? Let's just start with Philly. Carson Wentz, Nick Foles. Okay, then we go to Indianapolis, and it's Andrew Luck, Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz again, Matt Ryan. In the lone season in Carolina, all the reports suggested that the owner forced Bryce Young onto the coaching staff. So I don't necessarily know if Young was handpicked by Frank Reich, but the point is there's a pretty clear prototype that Frank Reich has targeted, that he's worked with and has had success before with in the past. And it's a pocket passer. It's someone that can win from within the pocket. It's someone who can break down the defense at the line of scrimmage and get them into a good look on the offensive side of the football. So I think if you are a fan of a Ty Simpson, a Garrett Nussmeier, or even in free agency, right? Because we're going to need a veteran, maybe a Kirk Cousins, trading for a Mac Jones, trading for a Jacoby Brissett, take your pick. I think that pathway is a lot more realistic now that we have Reich in the fold. So who knows how it's going to play out, but I can say this, out of the available options right now, the available / realistic options for the New York Jets, this makes sense. And I am on board with this hire. I can't wait to see his first press conference. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. Let's get to the offseason. And quick side note, yeah, if Frank Reich hasn't a suggestion or two, or he wants to target a wide receiver, the Jets better freaking grant it. They better do it, because I'm not only just bringing Reich in to just be the offensive play caller. No, you want to talk about, okay, quote unquote, head coach of the offense. You give him power to have a say. If he wants someone, he better have a freaking input. So I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.